Hello, and thank you so much for joining me. I'm Jessica Kringle. Of course, most of you know me as Mrs. Claus, and we have been counting down the days of December this year by doing a different recipe from my family recipe box. All of them have been sweets and treats, and we've just been cooking with Claus. It's been lots of fun. So let's go ahead and go to our Advent calendar and find out what we get to do today. And today is December 15th. So let's check here. Oh, fun! We're making Crystal Cut Candies. I first made these when I was a teenager taking home economics. I remember doing that. And so this recipe didn't go back to my mom's recipe box as much as has been in mine for many, many years, many decades actually. If you would like to get the complete recipe, you can go to www.crafterscountdown.com and I'll have downloadable PDFs there. I will be washing my hands and getting our ingredients out, and we'll be right back with you. Just a minute. All right, I've gotten out all of our ingredients and washed my hands, of course. The first thing we have is our sugar. So I've gone ahead and placed that into a good pan. And then we're going to add our light corn syrup, and of course, using a rubber spatula to get the last drops of it out of here. And then, as I mentioned in another recipe, I like to take our water measure, sort of swish it around inside of the sugary cup here, just to make sure we get the last of that out of here and dissolves just a little bit more. And then our recipe calls for a dash of salt. That always stresses me out just a little bit. How much is a dash? Have you seen those cute little measuring spoons that have a pinch and a dash, and I think that they're measured out that way, but I just took a dash of salt and we're going to add that to there. Then we're going to go ahead and bring this to the boil on medium heat and stirring constantly so we make sure that that sugar all dissolves. And then we're going to lower the heat to low and cook it to 290 degrees. That is the soft crack stage of your candy thermometer. So you'll need your candy thermometer, and I will get this in here once it starts to boil. So give me just a few minutes and then I will show you what to do next. All right, and we are just starting to boil, so we will lower the heat to lower temperature, place our candy thermometer in there, and then wait until it reaches 290 degrees. Now remember, we want to not stir it so that the sugar doesn't crystallize, and we want to make sure that our thermometer is in the liquid but not touching the bottom of the pan, so that it's not picking up the heat from the element, it's just picking it up from the liquid. All right, we will let that cook. We've reached the 290 degrees on our sugar mix here. And so now we're going to go ahead and turn off the heat and remove our thermometer. And then while this is still very hot, keeping that in mind, we're going to remove from the heat. And then we're going to swirl in just a couple of drops of green food coloring. You can use any color you want. I chose green because the flavor that I chose is peppermint extract. So I'm going to add these. A couple of drops of our coloring, measure of our flavoring. We're going to swirl this together. Ooh, that's a minty aroma. Mixed so that the color is a nice consistent color. You could tell that the sugar had darkened slightly, so it was already slightly yellow. So green is a good choice. If you had gone with a red, you might end up with it a little bit orangey, right? And then we're going to pour this into our square 8x8 pan. Can't really use the rubber spatula on the on this now, can we? Too hot. Now we're going to let this set just until it gets a film on it. And when you see the film form, we're going to start cutting it into its pieces. And I know that it says to cut it into 3/4 inch pieces and that it should make about 60. I've never been able to get them quite that small. All right, this is just starting to get the film on top of it, and it should just barely hold its shape as we start to cut into it. The important thing is to make sure that as you cut, you're not breaking that film. You want to just barely cut, and we're going to cut over and over again. And you can tell that it cools from the outside. So you're going to find it easier to do. Oops, do not break that film. We're just scoring it here. Keep turning. Press a little bit harder in the corners there, and not quite as hard on the other edges. The edge is very soft still. And we're going to continue with this scoring until it starts to hold in all of the edges. Now, as it continues to cool and we continue to score, we can switch from a knife to a metal spatula and continue to press down and make those indentations into our Crystal Cut candies. Can you see why they call them Crystal Cut? My spatula is not perfectly square. It's got rounded corners, so I'm not able to get into the edges quite well. So I have to rotate back and forth between this and my knife. This is the only metal spatula I have. Make sure I get into the corners there. And we're just pressing down, creating these fun little bubbly pieces. Turn to the other side. This takes some patience. Again, the trade-off for the simple ingredient list is that the process is a little more involved, I guess. Continue to very carefully not break the film on the top of these as they continue to cool. And keep cutting and cutting. You can see that the lines that we make have a tendency to disappear a little bit. And then we want to make sure that we go around the outside edges as well, and that's a little bit easier to do with a spatula. Press those down so that it's separated from the pan, and also so it maintains that fun little bubble look that these have. course, our biggest challenge being the corner pieces. And then we'll go ahead and repress our lines. And each time we can press a little bit harder, go a little bit deeper, because as this cools, the film gets in a little bit deeper into our candies. And we're able to get those shaped. And then when they get to where they are completely holding the form, you can give them a really hard press so that your spatula goes all the way to the bottom of your pan. It takes a little muscle there. That's okay. I've got these all cut and scored, and then we just take a butter knife. They have to be completely cooled, and you get down in between there, and you can pry one up so that you're ready to eat it. Now, if they don't all come apart, if some of them seem to be stuck together because you didn't score it all the way down to the bottom of the pan, no worries, just turn it over and tap it with the back of your butter knife, and it'll break those pieces apart right where they were scored. Thank you so much for joining me as I share with you my favorite family recipes for sweets and treats at Christmas time. I'm having a great time cooking with you, and I hope that you'll join me tomorrow so we can find out what we're going to make for December 16th. All right, thanks so much again for joining me. Bye-bye.